as legislature met. They moved upstairs, making way for Congress. Congress began meeting here in May of 1775. It was not until July of 1776 when the men in this room could actually bring themselves to admit that they had exhausted all the other options. Independence from Great Britain was the only option they had left. We'd actually been at war with Great Britain for over a year before Congress finally declared independence. We actually celebrated the wrong day. Congress declared independence in this room on the 2nd of July, 1776, when they voted to adopt a resolution proposed by Richard Henry Lee of Virginia. His resolution clearly stated that these United Colonies are and of right ought to be created independent states. 2 days later, on the 4th of July, Congress voted to adopt the amended text of the Declaration of Independence written by Thomas Jefferson. The last thing the men in this room were all worried about is which day they're actually celebrating. As far as most of these men were concerned, there was little to celebrate. In declaring independence, they were now formally going to war with the strongest power in Europe. It didn't take Congress long to realize achieving independence was going to be much more difficult than simply declaring it. And certainly when Congress declared independence here, they had no idea how independence was going to be achieved. Certainly they figured that out here. Congress met here throughout most of the Revolutionary War. 11 years after independence was declared here, the Constitutional Convention came to Philadelphia. They started meeting here in May of 1787. They swore themselves to secrecy and got down to work. They quickly realized they had to create the one thing that terrified them, a strong, powerful central government. They figured the only way that could be done safely would be to divide the government into 3 separate branches, the system of checks and balances. You know, one thing that the Congress, the President, and the Supreme Court always knows for certain is the other two are watching. And if one of those 3 branches does something that they're not supposed to do, if they are not doing something that they are supposed to do, the other 2 branches are going to take action to force that 3rd branch into compliance. It's an amazing idea in the 18th century. So is the idea that one man can be the head of state, the head of government, and the head of the military. You know what most European governments divide up between 3 different people. We put all under the president. One of the questions that had to be answered here was, how could you grant one man all that power? Allow him to use that power effectively and still limit his power. They came up with a lot of different ideas. Certainly one of the most radical to make it into the Constitution was the idea that although the president is the head of state, he is forced to justify himself to his people at least every 4 years. Every 4 years, he's required to stand for election. Throughout most of the world in the 18th century, to get a new head of state, you went through bloodlines or bloodletting. The old head of state died, the closest relative then inherited that position. It didn't matter if they were incompetent, it didn't even matter if they were insane. You got the next one in line. Unless you're willing to exercise the other option. The people or the government kill the head of state.